Well, welcome. My name is Barry Cranford. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder of the LJC and organizer of a bunch of different communities as part of RecWorks, which is our recruitment business. I'm not going to speak for ages about it. I will put some text, or Dom, if you've got anything that we can put up there just in the chat that we can share. So if anyone's interested in any of the stuff that we do a bunch of different things, 13, 14 communities, mentor introductions, and obviously get people jobs. So if you want to find out more, click the link, which Dom will share. But without further ado, I will hand over to Dominic for his first LJC Lightning Talk. So Dom, whenever you're ready.
Hello. My name is Dominic. This is my first live talk. I'm long member of LJC for like 8 years now. I think so. Yeah. So this I'll start as a from disclaimer. That talk is done by myself and on my behalf, so it's not related to any previous, current, and future employee, family, and friends. So don't blame them for that. Okay. And so my talk will be very quick talk about working from home as dyslectic developer. So the story time, believe it or not, I usually, when I'm on holiday in China, I read about working from home and other various topics that I usually don't have time on. And this is the time when I usually, read, and I read lots of about the Buffer and Trello and other, remote companies that do this kind of things, because it's something that always was interesting in. So while I was in China last year, the outbreak happened, and I was there. So I knew that I will get opportunity working from home, and that's happened. So how this work out for me? So let's start from that's many types of dyslexia. So being dyslectic in general means that the people need to use the way how they communicate, learn, and share their thoughts and knowledge. So in my case, it is related to the writing, learning speed, about mind mapping, memory, and focus. And on top of that, because I'm communicating daily in the English, which is not my native language, that add another challenge on top of that. So the good thing about dyslexic people, especially in the software development, is that we have an orthodox way to find a solution for the problems, because we need to adjust the way how we think and share things. That's the reason why quite often dyslexic people struggle to communicate the solution, but they have very interesting ideas that need to be explained better. So how was for
I think we may have lost Dominic there. Oh, what a shame. Oh, I think has he gone? Dominic, you're back. You're back and on mute.
Unmute. Okay. Do you hear me? Sorry, for some reason, just Zoom decided to disconnect. Anyway, so the thing is that I have more time to respond for those people, which is a good thing for me. So what I've done in terms of transition to work from home, I learned this blog. So I learned very quickly that there's 4 things that I can focus on, which is mindset, organize your day, or set up your workspace in the way it helps you, and adapt to the way to working as a remote team, because that's something new. The most important aspect, it's a mindset. The good thing is that, in terms of working from home or office, it doesn't matter because outcome is exactly the same. We just produce the software. But it is important to set up your mindset that way, that the way how you think and how you speak, it affects your focus. So you need to make sure that this is how you set up yourself in the right way. And that is the most important part of the mindset. Organize your day or way of working. It's another major challenge. in Office, it's sort of preset for you because, you know, you communicate to work, you're at work, you have the things set up for you and so on. At home, you have more things to set up and organize your daily routine, which is challenging, but it gives you as well more flexibility. As well, set up your workspace. In offices, you know how it looks like. You have the two monitors, you know, you cannot do anything with them and so on. At home, I can set up my workspace in the way that allows me and improve my productivity because I can reduce distraction. Even if you have family members like my son, I have a light that, you know, when it's red, my son knows that how to say, Dad is busy, he closed the door. So I train my 4-year-old son to how to say, respect that. And, you know, it working from home and set up your workspace helps you, how to say, with that one. As working from home and working as a remote member, that is a bit tricky because in my case, it's increased risk of miscommunication and understanding. So first, I need to improve my listening to the people. And second thing, way how I explain things. That is challenging, but because you can have more time in many cases, it helps you to actually fix that problem slower, but it's more productive. So as you may notice, wait a minute, it looks not big difference between the way how we set up everything for like normal person and dyslexic person. Because in fact, it's that if you're working from home, the set of rules that you have, it's exactly the same. You just pick up what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So as summary, for me, working from home was best things what could happen, even if the circumstances was, as I would say, unprecedented. But it helps me to be more productive and focus more and learn better as a result of working from home. So for me, it was a great thing. If you want to read more into the details about what I did and how I did it and what challenges as well it was, because there are challenges working from home, I can post the link to my blog post when you can read more about it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dom. Can you, if you could post the link, that would be brilliant. If you could post that to the your time in the office and when the door was closed, not to open it. Well, I think you're just on mute again there.
Okay, it's disconnect me again. So what did what was the question?
The question is how do you manage to keep your 4-year-old from entering your office when you're actually working? This is something I haven't managed to crack yet.
So I use magical Raspberry Pi, and I don't think so I can reach as far as you can see, but I have something called Raspberry Pi, and I plug the LED. So I said to him, when it's blinking red, Dad, it's at work, very busy, do not disturb, okay? And, you know, it's like training, I don't know, new tricks, dog kind of thing. Maybe a bit too little, but I'd say the way he got it, and it works very well.
I like it. I like it. Also, we've had a question in from Alex. Do you prefer using voice or text to communicate with your team members and colleagues?
Depends on the case. So text, it's better if I won't provide the proper response, but I prefer voice if I can include chit chat as part of that. So, you know, provide the social kind of experience while you're working remotely. So it depends on the case and what it is. I switch between two of them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thanks, Alex, for the question. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you've got the link there. So if anybody wants to look further into that, then please do. So next up we have Helen. Helen, are you ready to go?
I think so. We'll find out. I'm hoping my Zoom's gonna behave after seeing Dom have some issues. So fingers crossed. All right, I'm only going to share IntelliJ because I'm trying something a bit different today. All right, hopefully, I don't need all that. Hopefully you can all see IntelliJ. If you can't, please come off mute and shout. Otherwise, I'm going to continue. Silence, brilliant. Okay, welcome to my talk. I'm going to be talking to you today about 5 different shortcuts you can use to navigate around IntelliJ IDEA. Technically, there might actually be 7 shortcuts because I got a little bit carried away. One thing I want to point out before I get started, I am using the EAP today. So if this goes horribly wrong, we're going to blame the EAP, not me. And plus, I like a bit of danger in my life. All right, so first shortcut that I want to make you aware of, I think some of these you may know, but hopefully you'll learn something along the way, is search everywhere. So for that one, it's just tapping Shift twice, whether you're on Windows, Mac. I'm on a Mac today, by the way, so you'll see some of those shortcuts coming up. So search everywhere does what it says on the tin. It will search across your IntelliJ IDEA instance and project for anything you want, quite literally anything you want. So, first put your focus in IntelliJ IDEA because Zoom keeps stealing it. Line numbers, Zen mode. It also supports camel case as well. Zoom, give me my focus back. So code with me, for example, if you want to search for things like that. One thing I do want to draw your attention to is the little checkbox on the top right-hand corner of this dialog. I draw your attention to it because it's a bit of a theme throughout IntelliJ IDEA. So if I use the same shortcut again, double tap shift, you'll get that checkbox toggled on. It's not particularly useful in this scenario, but I will show you some more useful scenarios. Alongside search everywhere, and very closely related actually, is find actions, which is one that most people who've used this product are familiar with. So find actions brings your scope down from search everywhere to just the actions. So this is Command Shift A or Control Shift A, depending on Mac or Windows Linux. So this one, again, filter just to actions. So you can create a scratch file, you can, I don't know, refactor. Oh, that was an interesting spelling, wasn't it? Refactor, you can, if you know the refactor you want to do, for example. Again, checkbox top right, same shortcut, toggles it on and off. So those two are closely related. So Shift and Command Shift A for search everywhere and find actions. Okay, next, Command and E. This is one, I probably use this one more than I use search everywhere, to be honest. This will show you your recent files. So it's really useful, especially if you're working in a much larger code base. This one is obviously not production code, but you know, in the real world, your list of classes is going to be a lot larger than this, I expect. Much more useful now is that checkbox in the top right, same shortcut, we'll toggle it, so it'll just show your edited files. Something else that isn't entirely obvious, or at least wasn't to me when I first started using this product, was I can type directly into the dialog boxes, not spelled like that though, and it will filter down to what I'm looking for. So even though there's not a field to put your cursor in, you can just type straight in, or I can type in planet and find my class. So again, most dialog boxes you can do that in. Closely related to recent files, you've got recent locations, same shortcut, but just put a shift in it. So Command Shift E, Control Shift E. Again, this one's particularly useful if you've got really long classes, which we all know in the real world we do have. Checkbox top right, again, this is really embarrassing. I've only edited one file, sorry. But it will filter it down to the files that you've recently edited or the locations that you've recently edited. So Command or Control E for your recent files, Command Shift E or Control Shift E for your recent locations. Next, I'm going to use Command E to go to this cunningly named class. If you're paying attention, you know which shortcut's coming up. Navigate to test. So that one is Command Shift T. So this will toggle between your class and its associated test, providing that test exists. And then you can use it again to toggle back to your test subject. If your class doesn't exist, I hear you asking, let's find one. Code formatting. No one's written a test for that. Let's say you're in fact, that's offensive, so let's just format the code. Let's say you're in a class that doesn't yet have a test associated with it. You can use the same shortcut and it will say, do you want to create a test? So again, I use that quite a lot, especially if I haven't done test-driven development. And I can come in here and create a test. Okay, next one, let's go to my interface. Okay. Say you've got an interface like this and you're thinking, well, what do I do? Where's this method actually been implemented? So you can answer that question with Option, Command and B on Mac, or Control, Alt and B on Windows and Linux. Sometimes I do struggle to remember this one. I always get the command the wrong way around. If there's just one implementation, it will take you straight there. If there's multiple, you can see them listed here. So for example, let's go check out Mongo. It's an amazing implementation, I'm sure you agree. Like I said, not production. Alternatively, let's say back in our interface that we want to find the usages. So we can do that with Option and F7. So that will actually bring up the tool window down below, which again, I've only got 2 down here, I think. Yes, but you could also have many more down there. I did also find, slightly by accident, that if you want to navigate straight to your usages, you can use Command and B. So that will you can just use that to go straight there within the editor without using the find window down below if you want to. So whirlwind tour, super quick summary. You have got search everywhere, which is tapping shift twice. Find action, which is Command or Control Shift A. You've got recent files, which is Command or Control E. Recent locations, which is Command Shift E or Control Shift E. Don't forget that checkbox top right, same shortcut, almost certainly toggles it, and you can type directly into the dialog boxes. Navigate to test, I love this one, Command Shift and T. And then going from each angle, so asking the question, what do I do? So navigate to implementation is Option, Command and B, and then going the other way, finding the usages is Option and F7 or Alt and F7. And that's it. I think I went super fast, sorry.
You did well. You came in about 5 seconds under. So
did I? That was yeah.
Exactly the right speed is what I would say.
I
don't know if you were seeing, but there's a bunch of things that have been coming through on the chat. People that totally did not know about
Navigate
things.
test is amazing. Cool, Chris. I'm glad. Yeah, the green buttons on the left, the gutter icons, great shout. You absolutely can use those as well. I am trying to train myself to use the keyboard shortcuts, and it does slow me down to start with, but I'm hoping for longer term win if I can stay away from my trackpad for that. But you're absolutely right. The gutter icons will do the same thing. How do I run the current class I'm in instead of the one providing it's got a main? You should just be able to click on the green run icon, or I believe it's Control R from memory. Yeah, Tom, completely agree. Control R already runs what's in everything. Okay. I don't know off the top of my head then. I don't know how to run that specific class without using the gutter icon. I'm sure there is a keyboard shortcut for it, but I don't know it.
Brilliant.
So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you everyone there just joining in. I think there's some questions and answers coming through the chat. So Helen, feel free to answer those afterwards.
Oh, there you go.
Directly.
Someone. Thank you, Nick. Apparently, Control Shift F10 is the one you're looking for. Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Real. Thank you very much. So I forgot to mention earlier after Dominik's talk, but there is a feedback link. So obviously some people speaking today will have experience, some people this will be their first time, but either way, when you're just getting started speaking, getting feedback is absolutely crucial. It's so good. You sort of prepare all this talk, and then you essentially throw it over the fence, and you've no idea how it was received by a lot of different people. So if there's something that came across very well, if you had any aha moments, or if it was just, you want to have some positive confirmation that somebody did really well, then please do use the form. Dom posted it a couple of pages up. Dom, could you post it again, if possible? And yeah, and just it's like there's some multiple choice questions and that kind of thing, but really helps the speakers just to get a feeling of what landed, what didn't, and how they came across and stuff. So yeah, would really appreciate that. Okay, so next up we have Tom Johnson, another LJC old school person. Again, probably about 8 years for you, isn't it, Tom, as well? Something like that?
So something like that. I think it was probably the 2012 unconference was when I first started getting involved in the first started coming to the LJC. So that's going back nearly 10 years now. But nice. I've been a bit I haven't been as involved over the last few years, but the ability to do these sessions from home is just great now. So I'm going to try and get more involved. again.
Good stuff. Well, I'll hand over to you for your presentation then, and get out of the way.
Thank you. Okay. So can people see my slides?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to start with some hopefully uncontroversial axioms, some premises behind my talk. Firstly, automated testing is important. It's a standard part of software development. We should all be using that for all the software that we write. Second point, systems are complicated. They have many pieces, and some of those pieces are under our control and some of those pieces aren't. And tests should be testing what is under test and not testing what is not under test. These three basic principles lead us to the conclusion that we need to be able to, okay, well, how do we handle these external dependencies? And the standard answer is mocks or fakes or stubs or spy. I mean, basically, there's all sorts of different ways that you can have some sort of shallow substitute for the real thing. There are historical differences between what people mean by these things, but I'm just going to put them all under one big banner, particularly seeing as these are largely dealt with by calling Makito.mock anyway in a lot of real-world testing scenarios. So you want to be able to have a shallow fake that has an interface that's the same as the real thing, where you can potentially program them with preset behavior to respond to things, and you can validate that the interactions you had with them were as you wanted. And yeah, I mentioned Makito. That's a fairly standard way of doing that. However, it's not suitable for all situations. Because firstly, not all tests are unit tests. Sometimes you need to be able to spin up an environment, and that environment needs to be able to have some external things. There are various ways of, for example, spinning up JSON mockers and stuff like that. So, you know, when you get some JSON, you send some JSON back, but not all interfaces are standardized. It's also, you don't really want to just focus purely on what Makito does, which is about sort of like validating inputs and doing that, because not all tests are purely about functional. But the one I really wanted to raise here, and this is something that I think is really worth thinking about hard, is not all tests are yours. Because your API, if you've got an API, is somebody else's external dependency. So how do your clients test their code that's supposed to interact with yours? Now, for a little bit of context, what I'm going to be talking about is governed by my particular situation. So we as a company, we run a service. That service has a Java API, which people can then use to connect to our services and interact via domain objects. It's encoded on the wire as custom SBE binary encodings, so people don't expect to be able to make sense of what's on the wire. There are various standard workflows like logon, which is like always sort of like work the same way and aren't particularly interesting, but are necessary to function properly. And it's in a performance sensitive context, which means we're doing some things that are a bit fussier in terms of speed, but also our customers care about being able to assess things in terms of speed as well, their own systems as well as ours, because the context as a whole is performance sensitive. And in that situation, you might want to consider building your own stub, by which I mean a piece of software you can give to your clients to provide stubbing behaviors to replace your service for integration tests and whatnot. So in this case, we've got a Java API. This means if we provide this service, they can work with the expectations in terms of the domain objects that they're already familiar with. In terms of the custom binary encodings, they don't have to worry about it. That's not their concern. That's handled internally with the system. In terms of standard workflows like logon, we can just put in the standard happy path behaviors so they can just gloss straight past that and get on with the stuff that really matters. And in terms of the performance sensitivity, we've actually built it such that it's easily integrable with a performance environment. And if you're going to do one of these things, you want to sort of like really sort of like consider what customer actually want from such a thing. So for example, okay, I've just said unit integration perf test. By unit, I mean sort of like JUnit tests, small scale functional tests. Obviously, if it's connecting to to a stub of some sort. It's not technically a unit test, but they're fast tests that can go in the commit build and that sort of thing. They can be isolated. But you might want to be able to both have those sorts of fast JUnit tests with using the stub as if it's like Makito or something, but also then be able to set up integration environments and perf tests that handle load as a separately deployable thing. You want to be able to sort of like program its ability to respond. You also want to be able to have a look and see what it's received, but you might also want to be able to have it to just say, okay, well, check out, in my context, 1,000 market data messages every second. You might want to consider the ability for people to actually put their own behaviors into it in a nice, simple, straightforward way. For example, they might want to run a performance test where they throw a bunch of data at it and they just get an acknowledgement back for everything. Well, we can't cover every single possible case in terms of sample things. So give them an easy thing which allows them to just hook that up for their particular use case. And then maybe in the future, they'll extend it to replay their own stored market data from logs or whatever. But of course, these are things that you want to consider. We've actually built this stub twice. The first time, it basically just did the stubbing thing. And we only considered sort of like rebuilding. And when somebody said, hey, this stubbing thing that's appending these things to copy on write lists can't handle more than about 500 messages per second. So we went back to first principles and then did something more principled, which can handle like 2 million messages per second, which is massive overkill, but it was quite straightforward to get it working that way. So yeah, that's basically it. Something to consider. It may be appropriate for your context, it may not, but if it is appropriate for your context, those are some things you might want to bear in mind were you to do such a thing.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. Did anyone have any questions for Tom off the back of that? Feel free to either unmute your mics and just jump in, or if you've got anything you could put into the chat, then feel free to do so.
I've thought of one if nobody else has got a better question first.
Yeah, is that Alex?
It is.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah. So I remember having to do this sort of thing between us and a supplier company. So I was wondering, is there anything you might want to do differently if it's all in the same company or between two different companies? Does that affect you in any way?
So in this particular case, it turns out based on the architect. So one of the great things about building such a stub is you're actually leveraging a lot of your application code because basically you're just sort of putting different handlers in there. The way that it naturally fell out was naturally very easy to make extensible and handle all these cases. So that's one of the things. If it was in the company, there would probably be more of a case where, oh, you want custom behavior? We'll implement that for you. We know how to make it happen. Whereas if it's external, we want to make it easy for them to be able to extend themselves because we don't want to try and have that sort of conversation and have to sit down and work out exactly what they want. That's about it, to be honest, in this particular case.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Alex. Again, I ask anyone that's happy to put feedback in, please do use the form that Tom posted a few lines above. So great. So now we have our final speaker of today. Unless anybody, Alex, wants to give a presentation, there is space or room at the end if anybody would like to has a presentation that they'd like to share or test or try or anything, then you're welcome. Let me know, write to me directly on the chat and I'm more than happy to line that up afterwards. Other than that, we have a final presentation here, and Oleg, I'm going to try and get the surname right. Stadnichenko?
Yes, Oleg, my name. Yes, Stadnichenko is my surname.
Brilliant. All right. Well, whenever you're ready, then feel free to go ahead.
Yes. So can you see my screen? Cool. So I'm Oleg. I'm a Java developer for about 10 years, mostly on Java. And today I'm going to share my knowledge on concrete technology, gRPC, and why you should use it for inter-service communication. So let's start first with the problem. So for example, why do we need to have microservices? So if you have a monolithic service, it's hard to support it. Every new release, it's painful. It's hard to create new features. And for this reason, monolith could be split into microservices. And it's better to support them. It's easy to deploy one particular service, but side effects are increased complexity of infrastructure and communication between microservices. So, and that's why it's essential to decide how to choose technology, how microservices could communicate to each other. Because you need to figure out which IP need to be used, format, and other things like serialization and other essential things. So, and for this, we have gRPC. So what is gRPC? gRPC stands for gRPC, Remote Procedure Call. So this free open source technology that is developed by Google. So the letter G is not for Google, it's for acronym gRPC, it's gRPC. And it's part of the cloud native computation foundations like Docker, Kubernetes, and other technologies. So it has a very big consortium. So if you have any problems, you could ask anywhere in Stack Overflow, and everywhere you could find responses on your problems. So gRPC provides you support to provide interface from server to clients. So let's go further on to the little details on this. So first of all, it has a very simple definition. So in order to provide this API, you need to provide protofiles. So what is protofiles? You just provide service name, methods of this service, and you just need to provide explanation of these messages, request and response. So it's very easy. And in this example, I've just provided only one field string for each input and output response. But it could be more complex messages. So, and these protofiles could be shared to the clients. They could be given to the clients, and clients could build the stubs to communicate with the server. And other cool feature is cross-language support. So it's support mostly all the languages like Java, Go, Kotlin, and other languages. So you could write server on one language and client on other language. So it's very good, cool feature. The other cool feature is it's really fast. So by default, it uses HTTP2. So what is it, HTTP2? So about 10 years ago, in order to make request response in one channel, you have to wait for the response. So for example, if you have opened your browser 10 years ago, then in order to first it asks for the first HTML page, then it asks for each subpages of this page. And for each request response, it waits for the previous response. Then was introduced pipelined request response. So in this, request could be sent one by one without waiting for the response. But response should be in the same order that the request was sent. But HTTP2 used multiplexed HTTP. So a response request could be sent and received independently in one channel. So it's very fast. The other cool feature is it's serialized in compact binary format. So it's it consumes less bytes to slice your message. So, and to highlight everything that I said, so it's gRPC is simple. So you just need to provide protofile. It's cross languages. It supports a lot of languages, and it's really fast. So I hope it was very useful for you. So if you have any questions, I would like to answer them. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Oleg. Yeah, does anybody out there have any questions then for Oleg after that talk? Again, feel free to either unmute or just put them in the chat box, and Oleg can answer them. Okay, we've got something from Alex there, and Carsten coming off of mute as well. Carsten, we'll start with you then. What was your question?
Yeah, sure. So how does the gRPC compare against other frameworks like Apache, Thrift, or I think Facebook's got something there as well?
They are very familiar. So I think in terms of speed, they are almost the same. So they have difference, like, for example, gRPC vs Evro provide names for each field, but in gRPC you have field index. So maybe it's only one difference. So I think by the speed, it's almost the same. I read articles about comparisons, so it's almost the same.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks, Carsten. And we've got a few there from Alex. Microservice only or anything, and what is the performance like?
So it was written in the articles that it's 10 times faster than using JSON serialization. So I think it's really fast.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And okay, thank you, Oleg. So we have had a volunteer, Alex, with almost no peer pressure at all from me, has decided to, he's okay to do just a short talk at the end here. So Alex, thank you very much for answering the call. Whenever you're ready, you should be co-host now. So I don't know if you're screen sharing or not, but
give me a few seconds.
Of course.
Sorry, because most everybody else did this before we turned up.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
La-di-da-di-da. Screen on the right thing. Let's get this right. Oh.
Not working?
Yeah, give me a second.
Of course. And for anyone else out there that is watching, I'll just pad this time for Alex to get the Zoom working. If you're interested in speaking in the future at our next event or any of our follow-up events, then please do let us know. We do have a group, the aspiring speakers. We have the aspiring women speakers as well as a separate group. So if you'd like to join, connect with other people that are on this journey, connect with mentors, or just watch, we've done a bunch of interviews with keynote speakers and international conference speakers to help walk through how to choose a topic or how to get over nerves and imposter syndrome and all the classic things that that stop people. So talk to us afterwards. And Alex, are we good? We are good.
Hi, folks. I've managed to crash that, so that's really good. Why is that not working? I'd like to point out that I haven't actually tested this in advance, so hopefully you should be seeing a screen now. Somebody could give me a thumbs up. Great. Okay. So basically, I'll try and limit this talk to about 5 minutes about data strategy. There isn't really a lot that I can convey in 5 minutes. So I normally work in sort of like a big data type environment and where companies are doing analytics. So maybe a data warehouse or reports or data science or something like that. And I try to tell companies that they really do need a data strategy before they start doing major projects. And the big risk is that these companies jump in and start doing technology straight away before they've really thought about their strategy. Now, I appreciate that a lot of you guys are coders and you might not want to worry about this sort of thing, but trust me, being told that the team as a whole is working in the same direction is really worthwhile. let's have a go. Let's see. So the first thing to consider is vision. Now, usually this is something that the C-suite people, the CEO, CFO, CIO, whatever, should have. And it's a basic understanding of where the company is at the moment, what its strengths are, what it does well, and also where the company wants to be in the future. And that vision is really important to give a direction to where you're going. So, people. This isn't just about recruiting the right people. You need to think about how do you train up the existing people you have, what can be recruited, who do you want as permanent members of staff, who do you want as contractors or temporary staff, and those sorts of things. And I'm listing these things out because if you forget about almost any one of them, then your project may fail. Operating model. This one's a bit of a weird one. Basically, if you've got some sort of large data analytics platform where you're accepting data, processing it, turning it into data insights, to reports, to giving it to data scientists, to doing machine learning or whatever, you need to actually have the processes, the business processes about how to actually run this thing. How do you add new users? How do you tidy up reports that are not needed anymore? And if you forget about those business processes, the operating model, then your project may have struggle later on. Governance. So there are whole consultancies doing data governance. It's not just about GDPR. It's not just about privacy and things like that. There's all sorts of things where you're looking and you're saying, who's responsible for the data? And would you believe it, somebody's at my door? Let's ignore them. Finally, technology. Obviously, you've heard me talk about big data technology, and basically there's tons to talk about there. But the important thing is don't treat it as the be-all and end-all of your data strategy. Finally, roadmap. Well, you need something that says how you're going to get from where you are at the moment to the vision, that target place where you want to be in the future. So hopefully this has given you a flavor of what a data strategy should look like. You can do them yourself. If you're a small company and you have a fairly good idea of where you want to be, then fine, by all means, go and write your data strategy yourself. It should be shared amongst everybody in the company who needs it. And maybe it needs changing over time. There are, of course, lots of other companies that are quite willing to help you write the data strategy. And if you're just a technologist, then hopefully this data strategy should support you in what you do. Okay. Thank you very much. That's me. And yes, I had the slides prepared earlier, but yeah. Thank you. Any questions?